Okay, thank you. Welcome everyone to the Community Police Review Board. This is our first meeting of the year. We hold quarterly meetings, and I'm thankful to the members that are here and the guests that have joined us. And so, Gretchen, would you mind please calling the roll?
Yes, let's see. I would be happy to do that. Vice Chair Clapper.
Here.
Member Aaron Hull.
Here.
Member John Michael McDaniel.
Here.
Member Stephen Rice.
Here.
Member Michelle Teed.
Here.
And we have several guests this evening. We'll come back to our two from Salem Police, but I want to first welcome our new Internal Affairs Sergeant, Sergeant Dede.
Thank you.
And our new Chief of Police, Chief Trevor Womack.
Thank you. Hello, everybody.
Welcome guest Julianne Jackson. And welcome guest David Reinhold. And welcome guest Kathy Seckel.
Hi, thank you.
Absolutely. And staff with our legal department, Mark Weinstein.
Thank you.
Awesome. Did I miss anybody? All right. And I'm Gretchen Bennett. I'm staff to the board and I'm on the staff team of the mayor and city manager's office. Nice to see everyone this evening.
Thank you, Gretchen, and thank you everyone for being here. I do want to point out that we do have an agenda item addition, and that's approving our minutes from our October meeting and also approving the minutes from our November discussion with the audit board. And you, for the members, you should have that in your packet. Hopefully everybody's taken a few minutes to take a look at those. And if you haven't, let me know. We could potentially add that to the end of the agenda if you need more time to review those. So we'll be adding those to the agenda. Is there any other items folks needed to have on the agenda tonight? Okay, we'll continue on. Again, thank you. It's great to have our new members from the police department, and we will spend a little time with you, but first we'll open up for public comment to see if there is anyone that wishes to address the board on any matter other than those items that are on the agenda. So I look to our guests. Thank you, David, for joining us. It's nice to see you. If folks didn't know, David was one of our board members in the past. I don't see any public comment unless you're hearing or seeing comments, Gretchen. Okay, great, thank you. Well, again, welcome, Chief Womack. It's great to see you. I'm trying to remember your start date. I believe you're a month, six weeks in by now.
Yes, exactly. So it's been
Great.
6 weeks now.
Great to have you here. And then also, Sergeant, how do you pronounce your last name again? Ididi?
Yeah.
Great, thank you. It's great to have you both here. Do you want any time to address the board or any introduction that you'd like to give as far as joining us tonight?
Sure. I'll start. I'm happy to finally kind of get to meet everybody, even if it's just virtually like this. And first and foremost, I just want to, as the Chief of Police, I just want to thank all of you on the board for your service, for your time. It's an important role, and I really appreciate it, and I want to recognize that. Myself, I'm from California. I'll do a little introduction just in case, but I came up from California. I spent my career in law enforcement with the Stockton Police Department in California, which is just south of Sacramento, right in the heart of the Central Valley. And I served there for about 29 years. Worked my way up through the ranks and spent the last 8 years of my career as the deputy chief, so the #2 position for the department. And then my wife and I had been talking about moving to Oregon in retirement, and I have some distant family ties here in Oregon as well. And so as I was coming towards the end of that career in California and saw this position open up here in Salem and started looking into it, it just seemed like exactly the right time for me. Perfect place, perfect community, perfect department that I wanted to lead and serve. And so here I am. It all worked out. So I'm just happy to be here. I'm looking forward to getting to know everybody a little bit better. I spent the first 4 weeks definitely in just kind of listening, learning, observing, meeting mode, really getting to know everyone. And now I'm beginning to transition more into assessing the department more deeply as far as, what are our strengths and what are some areas perhaps where we could improve, and begin to develop into kind of a strategic planning mode. So that's the phase I'm in right now, but still have a lot to learn as the new guy. But what I can tell right off the bat is kind of from the outsider coming in with these fresh eyes, knowing nothing about the organization. I've been impressed with the level of training, quality of training. I think somebody's got a dog there.
Steve, that's your phone if you wouldn't mind muting, Steve.
Yeah, I'll take
Thank
care
you.
of it.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Very good training, high quality training, I believe. And we have a decent relationship with our community, it seems like. But there's definitely some concerns, I think, around staffing. I think our capacity is stretched pretty thin right now. And so when that happens, there's kind of risk for some things falling off the edge, right? Because you're stretched too thin. So I do see the amount of workload that our officers are carrying seems pretty high right now. Given our staffing level. So that's just my initial impression coming in. Again, it's only been 4 weeks, but I'm definitely starting to dig in a little deeper and start to understand the organization better. So that's me. I'm happy to take any questions too if anybody has while I'm here and available.
Let's do that. Does anybody have any questions or comments or anything you'd like to offer to the chief? Thank you for being here. I have to tell you, I also wanted to thank you for what I feel like is increased communication to the community. I feel like we've seen a little bit more interaction or thoughts and information that's being shared. I know that we've had a variety of events since just the weeks that you've been here, and it feels like there's been a different level of communication, and I've noticed that, and I appreciate that.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you're seeing that. That's definitely been a concerted effort on our part. And my viewpoint on communication is it has to be, we have to increase our communication, especially in this internet age and with social media. You can't beat the speed of the internet anymore. And so as a police department, we really have to be telling our story as quickly and frequently and as accurately as possible to get our message out to the community. So especially when it comes to topics like protests that are impacting our community in so many difficult ways and challenging ways. And it's important for us to share that information in advance of our protests, during protests, and then also after as well, just a constant flow of communication. So we've been working at that. We'll continue to try to improve, and we're definitely open for input or other ideas on how that might work even better if people have thoughts on that. So thank you for bringing that one up. That's definitely an area we're focused on.
Great, thank you. I see Bevan came on.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know if you had any questions or comments. Oh,
no, I was just coming on video.
okay,
Figured it
thank
out.
you. Anyone else? Well, great. Thank you again for being here. And Sergeant, if you wouldn't mind telling us about yourself, and you have a new role in the department. You're a new face to our group, and so love to hear a little bit about you and what you're looking for with your new role.
Sure. Well, I appreciate you guys having me on here. I concur with the chief. Your role is extremely important, and I'm just excited to be a part of that. And so my name's Lance Deedy. I've been with the department for going on 14 years. I've been a sergeant for around 5 years. My background in the department has been patrol and then narcotics investigations. And so I have a lot of experience doing investigations. I was raised in Salem, have a passion for this community, graduated from Salem Academy, and then served in the U.S. Marine Corps. And then from there, I worked in the private sector for about 10 years for Weyerhaeuser, and then decided to make the leap into law enforcement. I'm just super excited about this role because, I really see this position as one that is critical in finding fact and truth, and then doing that in an unbiased and fair way. And so the opportunity to do that is it's exciting for me. And so I'm looking forward to the opportunity.
Thank you. I was curious if we try to do what we can to learn too during our meetings, and if you could help us understand the selection process that went into selecting you for the position, if you wouldn't mind helping us with that.
Sure. So I think just my work product led me to this position, and so I have a background in investigations, and I was fairly good at it. And I've done internal affairs investigations as a patrol sergeant. My work product was good there. And so I think I was recognized just for having a good work product and selected.
Very good. And what is it, an application process that actually occurs in the police department, or do you raise your hand and say, I'm interested, I'm curious,
Yeah, you can raise your hand and
or
say,
both?
when you're a sergeant, ranked sergeant above, the department can move you and select you. So they select particular people that they feel would be a good fit for this position.
I see. And are you also given a timeline for the position? I wasn't sure.
Yeah, it's generally 2 to 4 years.
Okay. Thank you. How about other questions or comments? Go ahead, Chief.
Just real quick on that topic too, as far as selection, typically in law enforcement, not just Salem, but across the board, the internal affairs lieutenant or sergeant, the lead person, is a close report to the chief of police. It's almost sometimes a direct report to the chief of police. And in that sense, a lot of times it's a hand-picked assignment, more so than a application process type assignment. So typically the chief's directly involved and understands the skills that are necessary and the objective nature of the job. And so typically there's a direct input from the chief of police as far as who should be in that role. And that's the same thing here too.
I see. And I wonder if I could put you on the spot to ask you why that's a key trait to that position. Why is it important to have that direct report?
I think it's important because the position carries the weight of the chief's office. So even regardless of rank, right? We have deputy chiefs of police here, right? That are higher in rank than Lance. But the work that he's doing to investigate allegations of misconduct, for example, it's important to be a little removed from that chain of command so that you can be objective and complete a complete thorough investigation. You're not worried about crossing into somebody else's area with that chain of command involved. So what's important there to remove from the chain of command a bit, and then also to have direct access to the chief. So if there are concerns with an investigation, I know about that immediately. And so things can be addressed rather than waiting weeks or months for an investigation to play out. Sometimes the chief actually needs to know immediately what's going on. And so it just provides that direct information flow to the chief where it's necessary. And it also removes the investigator from the structure of the chain of command. So he pretty much has the full weight of the chief as far as investigating anything within the department. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, I want to look around the room and make sure if anybody else has questions for the sergeant.
Well, I have a question, I guess, to the sergeant or to the chief, is that I've been watching the news and it sounds like we could have some problems in Salem in the next few days. So it sounds kind of trite, but is Salem ready for this? Are the police ready for any armed insurgents or whatever that may come to the Capitol building? How's that going to be handled? What do we do?
Sure, I'm happy to speak to this one. This is the topic on everyone's mind right now, of course. And it was a topic at the council meeting last night too. Gretchen helped me out, but would that already be available online, that meeting, or the recording of that meeting?
You know, there's sometimes a delay, so maybe not.
Okay. So
Julianne, is it on there already?
Yes, ma'am.
Great.
thank you, ma'am, for that help. So if you have the time and the interest and you'd like to watch that presentation from the council meeting last night, we discussed quite a few issues around protests. But now I'll tell you that as far as leading into the next days, all the way up to and including Inauguration Day, which I believe is Wednesday the 20th, if I'm correct, right?
Mm-hmm.
There could be protests any of those days. And there are obviously events and information circulating on social media and in traditional media about potential protests. The one that's no secret, because it's really been out there, is for this Sunday, the 17th, right? It's more of kind of a nationwide call for protests at capitals, which would include Salem's capital or Oregon's capital. And so we are definitely preparing for that. But I also want to put that in context that the Capitol grounds and the building belongs to the office, Oregon State Police, not the Salem Police. And so they are actually the lead agency to prepare for that if it's directed at the Capitol. But we're closely communicating and coordinating with them. I would have to talk to the superintendent of OSP yesterday and today myself personally. So we're closely coordinating, and we will be more in a support role. If and when they need us, we're at the ready to help. But their lead as far as decision making and planning as far as what happens at the Capitol. I'm confident in the plans that I've seen that are being developed right now. And we are definitely prepared with some increased resources. I can't go into the details, but there will be an increased level of resources. So I can't say that we're prepared for anything in the world that could happen, but what I can say is I feel comfortable that we're prepared as we can be as a city.
Good.
Thank you. Any other questions? Bevan, please.
Yeah, I was wondering if either one of you could answer a question that we had posed to us in July by a citizen, and I can't remember their name, but they came to a meeting and we're still kind of waiting for an answer, and that's whether the City of Salem Police Department has a policy related to chokeholds and whether there is a policy that bans chokeholds. So that question, yeah, I think it was the July meeting. Somebody posed, and we haven't had any representation from the police department at our meeting since then, so we haven't been able to ask anybody directly. So I just wanted to make sure that if we could just answer that question tonight.
Lance, go ahead with that one.
Sure. Yes, we do have a policy in place that prohibits chokeholds unless it's rises to the level of deadly force. And so if the officer feels his life is in danger, or the threat of life to another is imminent, then that would be a situation where a chokehold would be applicable if it's a life or death situation. But yes, we do have a policy in place that completely prohibits the use of a chokehold.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I just apologize if you didn't get that answer right. That's an easy question to answer. So we should be able to answer questions like that on the spot. So.
Yeah, that's been part of what's been disappointing for me about being on this board, is that feels like it should have been an easy question to answer. And it was posed in July, and a citizen came and spent their time to join us, not one that was on the board, and asked that question. So I think it sounds like it could have been a lot easier than 7 months later.
So, so Gretchen, you can help me out if there's ever a question kind of hanging out there, just let me know. And if we can, we will definitely answer it. Sometimes, who knows, there could be some kind of confidential nature to something, or criminal investigations going on that we can't speak to. But if there's questions that we can answer, then we want to answer those, and we want to answer them in a timely way. Sometimes too, I believe if there was questions that maybe required a lot of resources, that could also hamper it. If, for example, somebody was requesting a lot of statistical information or analysis, one thing I can tell you right now is we have almost no capacity here for detailed analysis. We're very limited. And so if there was a request for a lot of statistical information with analysis, I may not even be able to provide that in a timely manner, but I'll explain that, and we'll do our best to answer those questions. So I just want to reassure everyone of that.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Julianne, please. Thanks for joining us as a guest today, Julianne.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I just had a quick question in regards to, I guess it would maybe be training and policy. So in a typical everyday traffic stop, is it trained, are our officers trained to have their hand on their weapon? Is that the initial response? You go to the window, you have your hand on your gun. Is that how we're training officers?
I'll let Lance go with it, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So generally speaking, no, we don't train them to walk around with their hands on their gun. If an officer was in a heightened state of awareness, or they believe that they might have to draw that weapon quickly, then that would be the only scenario where I would see an officer might do that. But we don't openly train our officers to walk around with their hands on their weapons at any time. Generally, we would train them that their hands would be up in front of them, and that way they can deflect whatever they need to deflect.
I was wondering if I could add a little bit, and I am not trained in law enforcement, and so I'm totally stepping out of turn. I've just also anecdotally heard some officers say hands sometimes naturally rest in those places, without intent. And it's possible sometimes that it in addition to heightened awareness, a second explanation, it sounds like some might just experience their hand just goes there. I don't know if you'd correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. But we do have conversations with our officers at the supervisory level that the perception of that could be viewed as threatening. And so those conversations do take place with officers.
Yeah, and I'm guilty of that constantly. When you're wearing a big heavy gun belt, you can't put your hands on your hips. And I mean, I naturally I just rested on my gun. I've always caught myself doing that. And so it's just like a natural place to rest it. So, but I'm more conscious of that now, how that might be perceived. I mean, I never thought about that until I started realizing. And you learn those things from hearing from your community. If you can have discussions about how it's perceived, then you can be more aware of that. So good. Thanks, Lance.
Yeah, thanks for your question. I want to thank you both again for joining us. We will go to our regular business, but you're welcome to stay if you'd like. I don't know, Sergeant, if you will be attending from time to time. Sergeant before did attend, but then he didn't attend the last meeting, and there was a little bit of confusion that we understood then it was only when we requested it, and so we were spoiled. I would say that he did attend, and your attendance is actually helpful to us as we only meet quarterly, and it gives us opportunity to check in and ask questions. I think we might have some more questions as we progress through our agenda, but.
Absolutely. My plan is to attend every one that I'm invited to, because I think it's important for you guys to be able to ask questions and to get direct answers from me. I know the chief touched on statistical information. I know that some questions have been asked about statistical information in the past, and if I can provide data to you guys or any assistance that you need, I would like to be there to help do that. So,
thank you. I think that I guess maybe I'll speak for the board members if you don't mind, that having attendance at every one of our meetings I think is key and important to us, especially if we do have those process questions, because we only meet 4 times a year. We would rather have them answered more timely. So thank you.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay. We are going to continue on the agenda. And again, thank you very much. We have minutes to approve, and we'll insert those now on the agenda if that works, unless board members need more time. They're lengthy. We did a lot of talking at our last 2 meetings, and so I wanted to make sure people had the time to look at those. So I'll look to the board members if you feel like you've already taken a look, or would you like a few minutes now? We have 2 sets of minutes from our October 13th meeting, regular meeting, and also the November 18th meeting when we met with the auditing firm. So how do folks feel? Do you feel ready to move forward on those tonight, or would you like a few minutes?
I'm good. And while people are thinking about that, Jody, do we need 2 motions, or can we do it as one, or do you want to do separate?
I think we'll need 2.
Okay.
I know I have edits for one of them, for example, but.
Okay.
Do folks feel ready? If you feel ready to move forward, we'll look for a motion to move on the October 13th meeting minutes.
I can motion to approve the October 13th meeting minutes.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any comments on the minutes? I guess maybe I might be out of order by saying that, but.
No, I think that's normal. Is there a
Okay,
motion?
good.
Is there a second? Is there discussion? Vote.
Thank you.
You're doing awesome.
All right. So all those in favor of approving the minutes can say aye and raise your hand. Michelle.
Aye.
Thank you. Anybody opposed? Make sure I didn't miss. Great. Looks like those are approved. And on the November 18th minutes, can we start with discussion, Gretchen, for some changes, or how does that work best?
Yeah, you can certainly initiate a change, and then someone could motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Okay. I know I have some, just some minor changes to suggest. Does anybody else have any as we go through? We can do this together as a group. Okay. And I highlighted these, so let's see how I can zero in for you. So on page 2, the second paragraph, 5th sentence down, it says training sand, and I think it meant training and.
Oh, yes.
I don't think we
Thank
have
you.
training sand, but we might. And then also on that same page, the second paragraph from the bottom, I believe completes was the wrong word. Complaints is probably the right word. Steve, those were your words, so I wanted to.
The complaint.
Yeah, I would suggest that was.
Oh, I caught, yeah. I
Okay.
see it. It should be complaints. I don't mean to speak for you, Steve.
It's all
Cody,
right.
I'm sorry. I didn't
No,
do
no
this
worries.
as well as I should have.
There's been a lot of meetings and a lot of minutes, Gretchen, so we appreciate you. And then on page 3, the top of page 3, the first paragraph, I think you mean to say just the.
Oh yeah, got it.
And then I am confused on this next sentence right after that. Does it mean the process isn't well knowing?
Oh, known.
Known. Oh, okay, thank you. Those are my only changes, so.
So you could have a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes as amended for November 18th?
I so move.
Thank you,
How's that?
Steve. Is there a second?
I can make a second. This is Bevan.
Thank you, Bevan. And all those in favor can say aye and raise your hand. We're counting.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Minutes are approved. Thank you all for taking the time to look at those before the meeting.
Thank you, Gretchen. They were very detailed.
Yeah, they were.
You bet. I understand those are important conversations.
Okay, and so item number 4 on our agenda, requests for review hearings, and we have none that we have received, which is our continued experience on the committee. And I'm sure if you've read our last minutes, how we talked about that to the audit board was listed out in those minutes. And I would like to pause and ask a question because it's just very interesting. We've had quite a bit of activity in the community, and we knew that there, from some recent protests, that we had potentially anticipated hearing more about complaints, and are we just not seeing them rise to the level that they need to come to the board, or they're still in process, or is there an information or more that we can learn about any of the complaints that might be in process?
I could certainly begin, but I would turn it over to Sergeant Dede with any information that he would have. You all probably remember that when a complaint begins, we certainly have a real commitment to no wrong door. And if someone isn't wanting initially to talk to the police department but has a concern, I'm always happy to sit and meet with people and then assist in information sharing or shuttle diplomacy or support in helping get their questions answered. But ultimately, a formal complaint or a real investigation would begin with the police department, and having our internal affairs process first do an investigation. And then upon completion of that investigation, if the person is dissatisfied with that and does not feel that that's right and was handled correctly, then they would appeal to the Community Police Review Board. So there certainly could have been complaints over this time period, but none have come to me. No one's appealed to the board yet. But Sergeant Dede, I would pass it to you in case there's anything you can share about how it's been for you.
Yeah, so we do get a lot of complaints after a protest that occurs. Generally speaking, they'll call into the IA line or they'll send us emails. The vast majority of those do not leave a name or phone number, and they generally just express themselves via the voicemail, and then they don't leave a contact information to get back in touch with them. When we do receive any complaint relating to protests, we address it and contact people back and have conversations with them. And we haven't had any formal complaints that have been generated from them.
Anybody else from the board have questions or comments about the process?
I have a question. I mean, not a comment, but not a question either.
Go ahead, Erin.
I hate speaking on these things. I just think in general, people, our community, you know, they're kind of nervous coming to the police, you know, and having complaints, you know, and maybe we could try to figure out another approach to letting them, you know, I mean, like one of us say, hey, you can come and talk to one of us on the police review board. We're not city staff. We're not the police officers. We're just the general public, just like them. I mean, I would be happy to sit with them. I'm the community just like anybody else. You know, I think I would feel better if hypothetically made a complaint, you know, talking to someone who's not a police officer or not in the city eye. Just a thought, you know, I mean, there are so many people who probably want to complain and they just are scared to. And I feel like we need to change it to make it positive and not negative. And I think we need to figure out what to do about that, you know. And I volunteered for the police in victim advocates, you know, and, you know, even I just feel like, I think the board, I feel like we need to do something and not just sit and talk about it, because I hate sitting and talking about things. I want to do something. Gretchen knows me very well. She knows I'm a go-getter and I want to do something. If I could help out, well, after my knee surgery, but if I could help out, you know, and, you know, or anything, I think we just need to talk about it more and see what we could do to make it more positive and not make it more negative on our community.
Yeah, thank you, Erin.
Okay, I'm officially done talking now.
No,
I hope not.
Well,
I might offer that. Oh, go ahead, Erin. I'm sorry.
No. I'm officially done. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to offer that I think that could happen at any moment. That's one of the reasons why we try to prepare and provide information when we do gather, because I think any of you in the community wearing your hat of being a community member who's on the police review board could find yourself in that kind of conversation where someone comes up to you and says, you know, I'm really not comfortable talking to anybody down at City Hall, but this is what happened and this is my concern. And I think that it's great that you bring that up, because I'm hoping that you'll have a way to be accessible and hear the person and receive that information and then be able to move it into a place where it can be investigated. I mean, none of us, including me, has the expertise to complete an investigation. We don't have that knowledge or expertise, but we can listen and we can keep doors open and we can help then get in touch with Sergeant Dede and convey information. And I would never say that you have to stop the conversation and say, well, your only choice is to sit with an officer, because we can hear and relay information and then relay information back and keep going until we've found a way to meet the person's needs. You know, there's lots of ways to support, as you know, from your experience with victim advocacy, there's a lot of ways to support people, and we can collaborate to get that done.
I think we just need to get the message out, you know, to people, our community. And I'm not going out there at the Capitol building being a woman and of color. There's no way I'm doing that. But, you know, we just need to figure out, you know, a line of communication to make it positive, you know. So, yes. Okay, I'm done. Oh, can we have Canine Training Dog Day too, by the way? I still want that in the works. Okay, bye.
A few years ago, we had the canine unit come in and it was really popular, but I think David might have been here, but Erin missed it and others missed it.
And you keep telling that to me every time we have this conversation, Gretchen, and I'm really hurt that I missed it. So,
Well, if it's okay with the department and if it's okay with the rest of your fellow board members, we can certainly request an overview of canine training policy and procedures if you like.
I request big time.
Well, Erin, thank you on both
You're welcome.
points that you bring forward tonight. I would not want to disappoint you, though. I want our first meeting back in person to be our canine. So,
Oh.
because I have a feeling that you actually want to see the canine in person. So,
Oh, actually, I've already pet a canine.
okay,
but,
very good.
yeah, but more training would be nice.
Okay,
So,
excellent.
okay.
I think that's a good topic for our next meeting if everyone agrees. I know that, marrying both points here, I know that through the audit, they are taking a look at best practice for boards such as ours. And so more information should be coming through that process as well on the recommendation for our community on how to move forward too. So, and Chief, you came on, did you have comments or anything that you wanted to talk about that point directly?
No, I
Okay,
just
thanks.
came back on to show everyone I was listening and paying attention.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, again, thank you, Erin. Can't hear you there.
Oh, there we go. So I've seen the new police department building, and I was wondering if we could do like a video tour of the new building since no one can go in it right now. Do you know how cool that would be? That'd be really cool. Okay, I'm really done now. I promise.
I heard you say the word virtual. Has that been done? Is there a virtual walkthrough that folks could go take a look at that's available somewhere?
I don't know if we've done the final one, right? There was Deputy Chief Belshaw was creating those videos throughout the project, and those are all online.
Okay.
See, we could be like the first one. See?
Yeah, and I can't wait to just get people in here and into our community and see the building person, but obviously we have to wait a while for that.
It looks nice.
Yes.
Even my 14-year-old's like, oh, that's so cool.
That's perfect.
Right?
It is very nice.
Okay. Any other comments around the topic of the review hearings? Michelle, I wasn't sure if you were coming on. I thought I saw you turn yellow there, so.
I don't think I did, but thank you.
Okay, thanks. All right, so, and next up we have election of officers. Our board has 2 officer positions, the chair and the vice chair positions, and annually we elect officers for both of those roles. And so I'm going to lean on Gretchen here for a process, if you wouldn't mind helping.
Of course, absolutely. You have a couple of choices with how you want to proceed by way of voting. Of course, we would begin by inviting nominations. So there would be a nomination for someone and a second. And then we would check with that person to confirm that they would serve if elected. We would see if there's additional nominations. And then if there's more than one nomination for each role, we would take a vote. And you have a choice there's a couple of pathways for voting. One is you can do an open, visible vote where you raise your hand or wave your hand or say aye. A second choice would be, if you'd prefer some privacy, you're able to email me your vote and we'll pause and let me peek at the emails and tally the votes and just give you a tally. If you opt for that choice, I would want you to know that upon request, that's information. The votes would be public record. And so we would provide that information upon request. But without that request, they would just remain in my email and as a document on file. So I want you to be conscious of that. I thought I'd pause. We have an additional person who's entered the room with a 541 area code. Can we say hello and ask who's with us?
Yes, my name is Les Ruark. I am joining you as an interested person. I'm a former resident, longtime resident of Salem, but I'm also now a former longtime resident of a wheat farm out in north central Oregon.
Very good, Mr. Ruark. Thank you for joining us today. We're at the point, I think you joined a little bit earlier, but we're in election of officers.
Hey, Gretchen,
Yeah.
are we going to have any new members? Where's our membership at right now? And are we fully, do we have a full board and
You do not. And let me back up because my brain likes to remember the numbers differently. So I've got the document open and I want to make sure to reference it. Let's see. The board at full seating shall be comprised of 7 regular members and 2 alternate members. And you currently, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you currently have 6. So you're at a seating of 6 out of the 9 possible people. We have quite a few applicants to the Community Police Review Board. There's been significant community interest, much more than typical. And so far, the mayor and council appointments committee, which is a committee made up of Mayor Bennett and then members of city council, have decided not to proceed with appointing people to the board, at least so far. Initially, they were recognizing the large number of applicants and considering an interview process to get to know the applicants a little further in addition to their written documents, but then also recognized the, was talking with the mayor and he was recognizing the performance audit that's happening and the potential for, as Chair Sherwood mentioned earlier in the meeting, the potential for adaptations or changes to the role of the board. And it may make sense to pause seating additional people at a time when things might be changing. You all remember the performance audit. We're scheduled to see a document at a session with City Council in March. And so that's coming up before too long. So that's a very long-winded way of saying you're at 6 of 9. And so far there's been no additional appointments to the board.
so we're at 6, but there's no on the with no alternates.
I would need to double check that. It wouldn't surprise me if 1 or 2 of you were technically in alternate roles, but any of you in alternates would move in to serve as regular members.
Okay, yeah, so there's 6 of us serving as regular members. So we're really only short 1 regular member because the other 2 would be alternates.
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to see where we were kind of at to see if it made sense to delay if we were going to have, a whole bunch of new people coming on. But I don't know, Jody, I would think that we would, not knowing when we're going to have new members coming on, I would think we would move forward. Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to check where we were at with that.
No, thank you, Bevan. I did mean to mention that earlier on the process, so I appreciate you bringing that up as far as the city council waiting.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we had the problem last year where we didn't have seats full, so we did pause on our election, or it might have been the year before, but.
Yeah, I remember waiting to at some point.
So with that, I can just, in case Jody or Bevan, in case our chair or vice chair end up in the nominations process, I can facilitate this part, Chair Sherwood, if you'd like, and just invite if there's any nominations for the role of chair. And people can self-nominate. People are welcome to nominate oneself.
Well, I would nominate Jody as the chair.
Is there a second to that?
Aye.
And Aaron is doing a second. Jody, would you accept a year of service as chair if selected?
Yes, I am interested in 1 more year of chair, if possible.
Great. Well, thank you. Are there any other nominations for chair this evening? Okay, hearing none, then we would go to a vote. We have a first and a second. All those in favor of Jody serving another year as chair?
Aye.
Aye.
I am.
Anyone opposed? All right. Thank you for your year of service as chair. Are there any?
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any nominations for the role of vice chair?
I would like to nominate Bevan for the role of vice chair.
Great. Is there a second to that?
I second.
Great. John McDaniel seconded. Bevan, would you agree to serve if selected?
Well, I would. So we're actually, my husband and I are considering a sort of a life change, and we're in the process of starting to sell our house. And the goal is kind of to stay in the Salem area, but I would also put it out there that, you know, if we don't, if there's anybody else who has, you know, an interest in serving as the vice chair, you know, now we could hear your self-nomination or anything like that, because if they can be more consistent, I'm happy to not do it. But if nobody else wants to do it, I can sit in it as long as, you know, we need.
What's the job description?
Yes, our bylaws essentially describe it as standing ready to fill in. So if our chair is unable to attend a meeting, we certainly look to the vice chair for that sort of leadership and facilitation. I also email both the chair and the vice chair the draft agenda and invite leadership on thinking about what should be planned and is ahead. Vice Chair Clapper, would you add anything to that?
No, I think that's pretty much it. I would nominate Aaron as the vice chair.
I was just at, wait a minute. Hold time out.
You had such great ideas. That's a lot of what we, you know, you give your input into what the agenda's gonna be. So I would nominate Aaron as the vice chair if.
Is there a second on that nomination? John Michael second. Okay, Aaron, would you
jump at once.
Well, I wasn't sure if I'm also hearing Bevan's declining the nomination, so.
Yeah, this is Michelle. Point of order. Point of order.
Really wants, I'm declining unless nobody wants to do it.
Okay.
Michelle, go ahead.
I was just going to say point of order. I don't know that we can have two nominations standing on the floor, but Bevan just declined. So
okay, I'll just decline.
Okay, I would submit that we need to, because we need to get our full slate of nominations to know who you're voting for. We've traditionally had, it's a little bit different than a traditional motion in that we want to gather all of the nominations, and then you'll essentially, like if you had a lot of interest, you'd have a slate, and then you'd be voting from that. Like for example, at the Human Rights Commission recently, we had 2 nominations for chair, and so the members were able to then vote between those 2 and select one. So it works a little differently than a traditional motion.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. All right, so I think if I'm going to make sure I'm tracking properly, Vice Chair Clapper would.
I'm declining.
Okay, got it. And we have a second on Member Hall. So Member Hall, would you accept if you're selected for Vice Chair?
Sure.
All right. Well, then with that, are there any other nominations for the role of Vice Chair? All right, then hearing none, all those in favor of Member Hall in the role of Vice Chair?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, thank you, Aaron, for your service, and I look forward to working with you and Jody in this coming year. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Aaron. And I don't want to leave this without saying thank you to Bevan too for your years of service as vice chair. Much appreciated, and appreciate all the different roles that you've filled by carrying that. So thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. We are now at the point on our agenda for an update on the community policing performance audit. And if you don't know, I also serve as chair on the steering committee for the community policing performance audit. And I was going to give you a quick rundown of where we're at with that process. As you recall, the last time that we were together in November, we met with the auditing firm, and they have been going around meeting with different community groups and members and organizations. I believe they're close to 40 different groups that they've met with, over a couple hundred of individuals. And the last time that we got together, they had just reached out to individual members in the police department through a survey that they're conducting. I also know that they are on the ground, also meeting with individuals as much as possible. COVID has certainly changed the way that you have interviews and processes. And I know that the teams are doing an amazing job of figuring out different ways to have conversations. If it's not through video, if it's phone calls, if it's other ways of having conversations. I think maybe even ride-alongs, perhaps there's been some way of doing that remotely or through cameras or some way. But I appreciate all the hard work of folks who are thinking of different ways we can involve through the different meetings that they've had. So different listening sessions. What's really important right now is that the auditing firm is out meeting with those individuals, as I mentioned, and they are starting to gather together key themes that they are seeing out in the community, key themes for us to further discuss, to further plan forward on, and understand more about those themes as they impact our community. And I have just the high level of what those themes are, those key concepts that the auditing firm is starting to form the audit around, and those are around trust. And what resonates under trust is that predictability, the reliability, and the compassion. The second one is relationships. With those partnerships, the collaboration in the community, the shared responsibilities for that community policing concept. The third one is transparency, the accountability, the openness, the inclusion, not only to information, but also the processes. The fourth one is reparation, or really that, how we make amends, if you will, that acknowledgement that maybe there is an issue or a problem, how we heal together as a community, and how we resolve that effort. Another theme is sustainability, that consistency of what we say and what we do, that follow through and that commitment to that sustainability. And lastly, the last theme is vision, the alignment of the department, the mission, the purpose, taking a look at that and understanding more of what the community has expectations around for the audit. Those are the key themes right now. Tomorrow, or actually Thursday of this week, we will dive deeper into that information and the findings from the auditors. The last time we met, they were still in the process of meeting with individuals. Because of a great recommendation from one of our steering team members, there was a link on the city's website so that individuals, if they were not part of a group of an organization, they still had a way to provide input. And I don't know if you know the number, Gretchen, the last time we met last month, there were over 131 individuals that offered comments. I would suspect there are more, and we've had the conversations about keeping that channel open as we learn more through the process. And as we get to March, the committee will be taking that information to the city council, and then public hearings will be held on that information. So even more opportunity for that feedback from the findings, or feedback from anyone who missed that opportunity to be involved. So that's ongoing right now. The information is available on the city's website. They also have the meetings live when they do occur on YouTube. So you could watch again on this Thursday night. I think it's at 4:30. 4:30 to 6:30. We expect it to be a little bit longer meeting. We're more into the middle of the audit, if you will. And so we'll be, we wanted more time to ask those questions to be able to understand more in depth of some of the findings. And so you'll be seeing that conversation if you do watch. We also asked for some information on what other trends are happening in police departments across the United States. That's important for us to know that information. And Hilliard Hines, the auditing firm, has some experience with police departments across the nation. So we will hear more about those trends and what other police departments are seeing across the nation for us to understand and know more about. I'm trying to think if there is anything else. Does anybody have any questions? I don't want to not give you part of an update if you were looking for more information. I think that's all I had in my notes.
I remember in the beginning that there was an effort to try to get some of the information from the audit to the city council early for budget considerations. Did that happen? Were the auditors able to provide any of that information?
I know that in December, the auditing firm did give an initial update to the city council, but I don't know, are you at the budget point right now, Gretchen, or is that coming?
It's beginning. And my understanding is March is timed to still be helpful with informing that. But but the first, I think, official budget committee meeting is January 20th.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I mean, just so there was some questions I remember in the very beginning that the city councilors were asking to have ahead of time, right? That had been brought forward. So just, maybe circling back to make sure if there is information available, whether that's available to us as well, right? And then also if the city council's getting what they need in that timely manner. I think Councilwoman Nordyke was one of the initial people requesting specific information.
Anybody else, any questions or information? How are you hearing, if you're hearing out in your communities, if folks have had the opportunity to have their voice heard? If you could help encourage them to either reach out to the website or reach out to the city so that they can have their voice on the table. Okay. Well,
Cody, would you mind sending the website link out to the group?
I'd be happy to do that.
Or yes, sorry, Gretchen. Yep.
Yeah, thank you. The next time we get back together, we'll have much more information to share. We'll be at the coming to the closure of the audit, I believe, by the time that we meet next, or seeing that finish line. So we'll have some more details to share. Okay. Now is time on the agenda for any board member comments. Looking around the room. I'm seeing none. Oh, Erin has her hand. Thank you, Erin.
Hi. You're welcome. Can we just do more, if we're gonna do like Zoom stuff? Well, of course we have to, but can we do like more training stuff, more, not for us, but getting more training on different things? Does that make any sense?
Yeah, we haven't in a while, have we? Our regular experience included a training really at every meeting. And then I think those haven't been scheduled for a while. I think that's a good point. Sergeant Dede, I don't want to put you on the spot, but traditionally the board has identified topics such as canine unit, and then we've depended on you, as you know, from our past conversation about like exploring the staff resource to be able to provide. And typically it includes some information and then also some opportunity for questions and answers and discussion.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if you want to, Gretchen, if you want to provide me, I guess, a list of topics that you guys would be, I could always approach my supervisors about that and see if we can use them.
Sounds good. I have kind of a queue of topics that we've noted and talked about in the past. And if you like, I can begin with that list, or if you all want to take a moment and reflect on that now, either way.
I would suggest that at our next meeting, we do review that list and then we make a plan. I'm really optimistic, but by the time we get back this summer, we can be in person. And so having that type of training might be better suited that way. We also will next meeting hearing quite a bit more about the audit. So whatever training we pick for next time would have to be probably shorter, but and also Erin and I can take a look at the list and see which topics we might be able to put together for the next meeting too, if you'd like to do it that way.
Oh, I wasn't saying like tomorrow. I was just saying in general. So
by the next meeting, yes.
Well, I mean, whenever. So, yeah.
This is Michelle. Can I make a comment?
Please.
Thank you. So with respect to training, I mean, we've had as you noted, the audit come up and a change in who's assigned to our committee. So I think it's understandable that we haven't had a training, but I do appreciate getting that back on the agenda. I had a couple thoughts. One is that the sergeant could look at one idea might be hot topics. In other words, categories of the issues that come to you most often, because those are the things that the community is raising for the police department's consideration. I don't know what those are, but you would know, or you have access to the data. Also, this probably isn't number one on anybody's list, with my apologies in advance to Mark, but we probably do want public meetings / public records training.
And you're right, Michelle, we've usually tapped the legal department to provide that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So I do think that Mark tries to update that training for us regularly. So that might be one that we could sort of quickly get on the agenda, and could probably be condensed according to our time schedule if necessary. Although I do understand that there's a number, it can only be condensed so much. And then off the topic of training, just briefly, I also want to thank Bevan for her service to the city and to the board. And one of the things I appreciate about your work, Bevan, has twofold. One, you're extremely detail oriented, and I feel like you make sure that we circle back on open questions. And I also appreciate that you often bring a point of view that other people might not have or might not articulate. And I think that's important to a broader consideration and sort of making sure our minds are open. So thank you very much. And that's all I had. Thank you.
Go ahead, Bevan.
I was just going to say, it's been an honor. And, I'm still on the board. I'm just not the vice chair anymore. We're not sure we're leaving Salem. We're just wanting to keep it open. So, and I appreciate that because I know I can sometimes, ask a lot of questions. So thank you. That makes me feel good.
Well, that's what I appreciate about you as well, Bevan. So thank you. Anybody else? Board member comments. I thought we were finished at 7, but we can go to 7:30 if you want, but I know we're at the end of our agenda. So any other last comments from board members before we close? Okay.
A motion to close the meeting.
Thanks.
Oh.
So Bevan has made a motion. Great. Michelle seconds. All those in favor of closing the meeting tonight? All right, thank you. I do want to say a last thank you to all the board members for being here and plowing through when we're having our virtual meetings. It's a new experience still. And then also to those guests that are interested and join us each time. We do appreciate that very much. And thank you to the sergeant and the chief for also joining and introducing yourselves. We're looking forward to working with you.
Likewise.
Ditto.
Thanks, Gretchen, for everything. Good night.